August 4th, 2008, 3:47 in the afternoon. A white prison transport vehicle pulls up to the fuel station at Rockville Correctional Facility. The driver, corrections officer Scott Spittler, waves casually to the gate guards standing in their booth, clipboard in hand, ready to log his exit. They wave back. Routine, unremarkable. Just another supply run in a day full of supply runs. Except that crouched beneath the rear seat, pressed against the cold metal floor of the transport vehicle, dressed in civilian clothes with freshly dyed hair still damp from the library bathroom, is convicted double homicide offender Sarah Jo Pender, sentenced to 110 years, about to walk free in 90 seconds. Her heart pounds so loud, she's certain the guards can hear it. But they can't. They're already turning back to their sports page, their coffee, their mundane afternoon shift that will, in approximately 2 hours, become the most consequential failure in Indiana Department of Correction history. The gate opens, the transport vehicle rolls through, and Sarah Pender rides out onto the open road, feeling sunshine on her face through the window for the first time in 7 years, without shackles, without guards, without the constant weight of surveillance. This is not that story. This is the story of what happened when they brought her back. Of the 5 years she has spent in a cell barely larger than a bathroom, longer than most serve for unlawful homicide, as punishment not for ending lives, but for proving that even maximum security can be breached by someone patient enough, smart enough, determined enough. The threshold of iron gates, in the heartland of America, south of Chicago and north of Louisville, where cornfields stretch to horizons and small towns mark the map like punctuation, stand two fortresses that hold women who society has decided cannot be trusted with freedom: Indiana Women's Prison and Rockville Correctional Facility. Together, they house more than 1,800 women, each one bearing the weight of choices made and fates sealed, each one a daughter, many of them mothers, all of them human beings who have crossed a threshold from which return is never simple and often impossible. Among them, Sarah Pender, who has spent 1,827 days in isolation, 23 hours per day in a concrete box, for the crime of embarrassing the system that claimed to be impenetrable. Martha Search, who has counted 7,300 days behind bars, while the world outside invented smartphones and social media and forgot she existed, while her daughters grew from teenagers to middle-aged women without her. Addie Hartz, the third generation of her family to wear prison orange, making Mother's Day cards for daughters who are learning the same patterns of violence and incarceration that claimed their grandmother, their mother, and may yet claim them. Paula McIntosh, whose veins remember 11 years of controlled substances better than her children, remember her face, whose dependency has scattered 4 kids across 2 states and 3 different households. Tonight, their stories intersect to reveal something darker than any individual crime. A system that doesn't just punish, it reproduces itself generation after generation, creating cycles of incarceration that trap entire families in patterns that seem impossible to break. America imprisons more women than any other nation on earth. The numbers are staggering and relatively recent. In 1980, there were approximately 12,000 women in state and federal prisons nationwide. By 2015, that number had exploded to over 100,000, an 800% increase in just 3 decades. The reasons are complex and politically fraught. The war on controlled substances, mandatory minimum sentencing, harsher penalties for non-violent offenses, the privatization of prisons that created financial incentives for mass incarceration. But the result is undeniable and unprecedented. Women are being imprisoned at rates unprecedented in human history. They come from cities where poverty concentrates and opportunities vanish, and from small towns where controlled substances abuse has devastated communities. They are mothers, 85% of them, and daughters, sisters, and wives. Some are violent offenders whose crimes shocked communities. Others are merely desperate, caught in situations where legal options seem non-existent and illegal ones seemed like survival. All have crossed a threshold from which return is never simple, never clean, never without lasting consequences that extend far beyond their own lives. Indiana Women's Prison sits in Indianapolis, holding more than 600 women in brick buildings where everything is numbered, catalogued, assigned, controlled. Built in 1873, it's the oldest prison for women in continuous operation in the United States. The architecture reflects its age. Cell blocks that were designed when incarceration meant only confinement, when the words rehabilitation and re-entry had not yet entered the vocabulary of criminal justice, when prison was purely punitive and made no pretense of being anything else. The buildings are Victorian in style, but utilitarian in function. High ceilings that once seemed grand now just make the spaces harder to heat. Long corridors lined with cells. Common areas where women gather under supervision. A yard surrounded by razor wire. Everything designed for containment and control, for removing people from society and holding them separate until some predetermined time when society has decided they've suffered enough to be allowed back. Rockville Correctional Facility lies southwest in Park County, processing overflow. More than 1,200 women passing through each year. Opened in 1921, it began as a men's facility before converting to women only in 2005. The conversion was hasty, driven by overcrowding in other facilities, rather than thoughtful planning about the specific needs of incarcerated women. Dormitories designed for male inmates now house female populations with different needs, different traumas, different patterns of behavior. The architecture reflects assumptions about prison populations that are outdated and often counterproductive. Both facilities operate on the same principles. Order above all else. Routine as religion. Obedience is the highest virtue. Every moment scheduled. Every movement is monitored. Every choice removed except the choice to comply or face additional punishment. On average, 200 women arrive at Rockville each month. That's 6 to 7 women every single day. 6 women losing their freedom. 6 families fractured. 6 sets of children learning what it means to have a mother behind bars. Learning to navigate birthdays and holidays and ordinary days without the person who should be their primary attachment figure. The intake officer who processes them has seen approximately 14,000 women pass through her station in 7 years of employment. She can recite the procedure in her sleep. Sometimes has nightmares where she's still fingerprinting, still photographing, still handing out styrofoam cups with names written in permanent marker assembly line of human tragedy reduced to bureaucratic process. Some women arrive at Rockville for the first time, their eyes wide with the shock of what has happened to them, unable to process that this is now their reality, that they will sleep here tonight and tomorrow night, and for however many nights their sentence requires. Others arrive for the second time, or the third, or the fifth, walking through intake with weary familiarity, a resignation that speaks to how completely prison has become normalized in their lives. A few even say the words aloud, without irony or shame, with something that might almost be relief. I am home. For them, prison has become more familiar than the world outside. This phenomenon, the institutionalization of repeat offenders, is well documented in academic literature, but rarely discussed in public discourse about criminal justice reform. These women have spent so much of their adult lives incarcerated that the rigid structure of prison feels safer than the chaos of freedom. They know how to navigate prison. They understand its rules, both official and unofficial. They know which guards are reasonable and which are vindictive, which inmates to befriend and which to avoid, how to get extra food or medicine, or the small privileges that make incarceration slightly more bearable. The outside world, with its endless choices and uncertain outcomes and requirement that you figure everything out yourself, has become foreign territory. They've lost the skills, or never developed them, needed to function independently in free society. Within each prison are levels of confinement, concentric circles of restriction that get tighter the deeper you go. The general population lives in dormitories or cells, allowed out for work assignments and meals and recreation time. These are the women most people imagine when they think of prison, moving in groups, wearing uniforms, visible and present in the communal spaces of incarceration. They attend programs if programs are available. They work jobs that pay pennies per hour. They have some limited autonomy within the highly controlled environment. But there is another level, the Administrative Segregation Unit. Segregation, seg, the hole, the box. It has many names, but the experience is singular and harsh. This is the prison within the prison. 23 hours each day locked in cells, measuring approximately 8 feet by 10 feet. Smaller than many people's bathrooms, smaller than a parking space. 1 hour out, alone, shackled at wrists and ankles, in a cage barely larger than the cell itself for what's euphemistically called recreation, though there's nothing recreational about pacing in a concrete box while chained, for weeks, for months, for years. But one woman has been here longer than any other in the state's history. Nearly 5 years, 1,827 days and counting. Sarah Jo Pender, the woman who embarrassed the state, who walked out of maximum security and stayed free for 134 days, whose face appeared on television screens across America as one of the US Marshals' 15 most wanted, whose story became a cautionary tale told to every corrections officer in Indiana. This is what happens when you let your guard down. This is what happens when you trust an inmate. This is what happens when intelligence meets opportunity and you're on the wrong side of both. Now she sits in segregation, her world reduced to concrete and silence. The routine is absolute and unchanging. Wake at 5:30 when lights come on. They never ask. They simply illuminate. Harsh fluorescent brightness that makes sleep impossible. Breakfast delivered through a slot at 6. A tray passed through an opening in the door, eaten alone. Pass back when you're done, or when the guard decides your time is up, whichever comes first. Count at 7. Stand at your door or sit on your bunk while the guard walks by and verifies your presence, checking you off a list, confirming you haven't magically disappeared overnight. The single hour out occurs at a time determined by the guards, different each day to prevent routine, to keep you off balance, to ensure you can never quite settle into expectations or patterns. Sometimes it's at 9 in the morning, sometimes at 3 in the afternoon, sometimes at 6 in the evening. The unpredictability is part of the punishment, a reminder that you control nothing, not even the most basic rhythms of your day. Lunch at 11:30, count at 3, dinner at 5, count at 8, lights dim at 10 but never fully dark. There's always a glow, always enough light for guards to see into your cell during their rounds, to verify you haven't harmed yourself or attempted self-destruction or found some other way to escape through a self-initiated end of life that you cannot escape through release. Sleep is interrupted every hour by checks, a flashlight beam across the face, a door opening to verify presence, the constant reminder that privacy is not a right you possess anymore. 5 years of this, 1,827 days of the same routine, the same 4 walls, the same slot through which food appears and disappears, the same voice over the intercom announcing count time, the same sound of steel doors clanging shut throughout the unit, a percussion of confinement that marks the hours more reliably than any clock. The human mind is not designed for this level of isolation. Psychological studies have demonstrated that prolonged solitary confinement causes measurable damage: anxiety, depression, hallucinations, cognitive deterioration, loss of sense of self. The United Nations considers prolonged solitary confinement, defined as more than 15 days, to be a form of severe psychological mistreatment. Jo Pender has endured it for over 1,800 days. The guards say she is too smart for their facility. They say it as justification for the severity of her confinement, as though intelligence is itself a crime requiring additional punishment. She has been assessed and reassessed by psychologists and review boards. Her file is thick with evaluations, and the decision remains the same every 6 months. She stays where she is. What the guards don't tell visitors, what doesn't appear in the official paperwork, is this: she's not in segregation because she's a risk to other people. She's there because she's expensive to the institution. Because what? She did cost the state of Indiana something money can't measure and time can't heal. Pride. Institutional pride. The pride of a system that claimed to be secure, that promised the public it could contain even the most dangerous offenders, that built its reputation on the premise that escape was impossible in the modern era of surveillance and procedure. In exactly 134 days of freedom, Jo Pender walked through more than prison walls. She walked through the comfortable fiction that prisons work as advertised, that guards are incorruptible, that intelligence and patience cannot overcome concrete and steel. She proved that even maximum security facilities have vulnerabilities, that even trained corrections officers can be manipulated, that the system everyone had been told was impenetrable could be breached by a woman with no prior history of violence, no connections to organized crime, no resources beyond her own mind, and an understanding of human psychology. Thus, escape itself cost Indiana taxpayers approximately $200,000 in immediate expenses. The manhunt involved multiple agencies, state police, U.S. Marshals, local law enforcement in 3 states, hundreds of man-hours, coordination across jurisdictions, press conferences, public alerts, the machinery of justice grinding at full speed and full cost. But the real cost was reputation. News outlets across the country covered the story with barely concealed glee. Late-night comedians made jokes about Indiana's prison system. Editorial writers questioned how such a thing could happen. The Department of Correction became a national embarrassment, a punchline, a cautionary example of institutional failure. So they put her in a place where memory wanes, where even the strongest mind begins to fracture under silence, where the only sounds are the echoes of your own thoughts, bouncing off concrete walls until they become indistinguishable from madness, where days blur into weeks, blur into months, blur into years until time loses meaning entirely, and you measure your existence, not in calendar dates, but in the number of meals delivered through a slot, the number of times a guard's footsteps have passed your door, the number of hours you've spent staring at walls that never change. But what happened during those 134 days of freedom? The manipulation, the careful planning, the relationship that destroyed a man's life. That story begins years earlier, when a young woman with a sharp mind and poor judgment met a controlled substance distributor named Richard Hull at a college party. And in a house they shared with 2 roommates on the north side of Indianapolis, violence would erupt on an October night in 2000 that would end 2 lives and create the legend of a woman compared to Charles Manson. A woman who never pulled a trigger on a firearm, but who, according to 12 jurors who heard 6 weeks of testimony, orchestrated the taking of life with words alone, with psychological manipulation, with a kind of evil that doesn't announce itself with weapons or physical violence, but operates in the shadows of influence and control. The comparison to Charles Manson was deliberate. The prosecutor used it repeatedly during trial, building a narrative that would resonate with a jury old enough to remember the Tate LaBianca homicides, young enough to be influenced by media portrayals of Manson as the ultimate embodiment of manipulative evil. Like Manson, she never committed the actual fatal acts, the prosecutor argued. Like Manson, she allegedly manipulated others into doing her violent work. Like Manson, she represented a particular kind of threat, the evil of intelligence corrupted, of influence weaponized, of charisma deployed for destruction rather than creation. The jury found her guilty. 110 years, 55 for each person whose life was ended, served consecutively. She was 21 years old at sentencing. She will be eligible for parole at age 81, assuming she reaches that age, assuming parole boards 6 decades from now look favorably on a woman convicted of orchestrating double homicide, assuming she ever leaves the segregation unit that has become her entire world. The Escape Artist's Tale. Interrogation Room. Indianapolis Metropolitan Police Department. December 2008. 4 days after recapture. Detective Warren sits across from Sarah Pender, 48 hours into what will become a 72-hour interrogation, conducted in shifts by multiple detectives, all trying to understand not just how she escaped, but why. Not just the mechanics of the plan, but the psychology behind it. The recording device hums on the table between them, red light blinking to indicate everything is being captured, documented, preserved as evidence for the additional charges that will inevitably follow. Sarah's hands are cuffed to the table through a metal ring. She's wearing civilian clothes, jeans and a sweatshirt, because they caught her before she could be processed back into Prison Orange. The clothes are rumpled from sleeping in a jail cell. She looks tired, not frightened, not defiant, just exhausted in a way that goes beyond physical fatigue, an exhaustion that seems to radiate from somewhere deeper, somewhere in the soul. Let's start with how you got the money, Warren says. He's a veteran detective, 30 years on the job, and he's interviewed hundreds of suspects in this same room. But Sarah Pender is different from most. Most suspects either lawyer up immediately or talk too much, incriminating themselves through nervousness or false confidence. Sarah does neither. She answers questions calmly, directly, measuring each word, giving the impression of someone who has thought very carefully about this moment and prepared for it. You already know how, Sarah says. Her voice is level, neither hostile nor helpful, just stating facts. Say it anyway, for the record. Contraband. I ran an operation inside. Guards brought items in, primarily cell phones, sometimes substances, sometimes just comfort items like better food or magazines. I sold them to other inmates at markup, and everyone profited. Basic supply and demand economics applied to a captive market. What was your cut? Varied. On cell phones, I'd clear about 300 per unit after paying the guard who brought it in. Over the 18 months I operated, I accumulated approximately $17,000. Warren raises his eyebrows. That's significantly more than the estimates in the preliminary reports. Where'd you keep it? Different places. Some in the commissary account, some hidden in the library where I worked, some with trusted inmates who owed me favors. You spread it around so no single discovery wipes you out completely. Risk management, including Officer Spittler. Especially Officer Spittler. He was my primary supplier for the last year before the escape. Most reliable, most consistent, and most desperate for the money, which made him most trustworthy in a perverse way. Warren leans forward, elbows on the table. When did the intimate relationship begin? For the first time, Sarah's composure cracks slightly. Not much, just a flicker of something. Shame, regret, embarrassment, crossing her face before the mask returns. That was unfortunate, embarrassing for everyone involved, particularly for the department when it became public. But yes, we had an intimate relationship. It started about 6 months before the escape. Whose idea was it? The relationship or the escape? Both. Sarah thinks about this for a moment, choosing words carefully. The relationship evolved naturally, or as naturally as anything can evolve in prison between an inmate and a guard. Scott was lonely. His marriage was failing, had been failing for years, apparently. He needed someone who saw him as more than just a uniform, more than just a paycheck, more than just a man who wasn't quite good enough for his wife. I provided that. The escape was my idea. But by the time I proposed it to him, Scott was so emotionally invested that he would have driven me out for free. But you paid him anyway. Insurance. $5,000, which he never spent. They found it in his locker at the prison after he was arrested. I wanted to make sure he didn't get cold feet at the last minute. Money creates commitment through guilt. Once he'd accepted payment, backing out would have meant admitting he'd taken a bribe and got nothing for it. The payment locked him in psychologically even more than the emotional manipulation had. Warren makes notes. Tell me about the night of the escape, step by step. Sarah Pender arrived at Indiana Women's Prison, barely into her 20s, younger than most of the women around her, younger than many of the guards who would supervise her. College educated at a time when most female inmates had barely finished high school. Sharp mind that had earned her scholarships and opportunities and a future that could have unfolded in ordinary, successful ways. She'd been a good student at IUPUI, Indiana University, Purdue University, Indianapolis, studying communications with plans for a career in marketing or public relations, had internships lined up, had professors who wrote glowing recommendations, had the kind of trajectory that leads to middle-class stability, to a house in the suburbs, and kids in good schools, and retirement accounts, and all the markers of success in contemporary America. But she fell in love with Richard Hull, a street-level controlled substance distributor. Small-time, not a kingpin or cartel member or anyone with real power in the substance trade, just a guy who sold marijuana and pills to support his own dependency and make rent. She stayed when wisdom counseled leaving, when friends warned her, when her parents issued ultimatums, and when violence erupted in their shared house on an October night. She found herself charged not as an accessory, not as someone who made bad decisions in the aftermath of trauma, but as the architect of homicide, as the mastermind who supposedly orchestrated the unlawful taking of life of two people who had done nothing to her except exist in the same house and create friction with her boyfriend. The prosecution's theory was compelling in its simplicity. Sarah was the brain, Richard was the weapon, and together they eliminated problems that Sarah had decided were intolerable. The jury believed this theory. 110 years. For several years after her conviction, she lived as other inmates live. She worked in the library, a coveted assignment, because it kept you indoors, away from the weather, away from the harder labor of kitchen or laundry work. She attended programs when programs were available, anger management, even though she'd never demonstrated anger issues. Victim awareness, even though she maintained she wasn't guilty of the crime. She followed the rules with such consistent precision that guards noted it in their reports. Model inmate, no disciplinary infractions, respectful to staff, compliant with all directives. But beneath compliance, something else grew. A plan. A refusal to accept that this would be her entire existence, that she would age and reach the end of her life in prison for crimes she claimed not to have committed. A slow burning determination that began as fantasy. What if I could escape? And gradually hardened into intention, into planning, into the careful accumulation of resources and relationships that would make fantasy into reality. Every escape requires resources, money, and in prison, there's only one economy that generates real income: contraband. Sarah recognized this early. She also recognized that she had assets other inmates lacked: intelligence far above average, education that taught her how to organize and manage complex operations, the ability to read people, to understand what they needed, what they feared, what they wanted, and to position herself as someone who could provide those things or appear to provide them in exchange for their cooperation. She began small, testing the waters. A guard named Rodriguez was her first contact. He was new, uncertain, struggling financially with student loans and car payments and rent in a city where corrections officers are paid barely above poverty wages. Sarah approached him during a quiet moment in the library where few other inmates or guards were present. Nothing obvious, nothing that would raise suspicions, just a casual comment. "It must be hard, working here for what they pay you. I don't know how you make ends meet." Rodriguez, grateful for someone acknowledging what he privately felt was profound unfairness, agreed, complained about his rent increasing, his car needing repairs he couldn't afford, his girlfriend wanting to get married, but how could they when he made $28,000 a year before taxes? And Sarah listened, really listened, with the kind of attention that makes people feel heard in a way they rarely experience, especially in an environment where everyone is focused on their own survival. 2 weeks later, she made her proposal. Careful, oblique, plausibly deniable if he reacted badly. If someone wanted to supplement their income, hypothetically speaking, what would they need to do? Rodriguez understood immediately what she was offering, but he didn't reject it out of hand, didn't report her to his supervisor, didn't react with the moral outrage that his training said he should demonstrate. Instead, he asked, "What kind of supplement are we talking about?" Cell phones are worth $500 inside. They cost maybe $50 at Walmart. That's $450 profit per phone. If someone brought in one phone per week, that's $1,800 extra per month. Tax-free, no reporting requirements, just cash in your pocket. Rodriguez thought about it for 3 days. Sarah didn't push, didn't mention it again. Just let the idea work on him. Let his financial desperation do the convincing. On the 4th day, Rodriguez brought in his first phone, smuggled in his lunch bag, passed to Sarah during her shift in the library. She paid him $250, his cut, and sold the phone to another inmate for $500. Everyone profited, everyone was happy, and a business relationship was born. Within 6 months, Sarah had 3 guards on her payroll. Within a year, she was running the most sophisticated contraband operation Indiana Women's Prison had seen in decades. She was careful, never greedy, never flashy, never gave guards more than they could safely carry or inmates more than they could safely hide. Always professional. She treated the guards as business partners, not as marks to be exploited and discarded. She paid on time. She never cheated anyone. She maintained quality control, phones that actually worked, substances that were actually what she claimed they were, food that wasn't spoiled. This is what separated her from other inmates who tried to run contraband operations and got caught within weeks. She understood long-term relationship building. She understood that sustainability requires trust, even in illegal enterprises, maybe especially in illegal enterprises where there's no legal recourse if someone violates an agreement. She was building something that could last, that could provide her with the resources she'd need when the opportunity for escape presented itself. And then she met Scott Spittler. His name was Scott Spittler. I am 33 years old, married with 2 kids, ages 8 and 6. He'd been working at Indiana Women's Prison for 7 years without incident, long enough to be considered reliable, short enough that he hadn't become completely jaded or burned out. On paper, he was exactly the kind of corrections officer the system wanted: experienced, professional, married with family obligations that created incentives for keeping his job. But beneath the surface, his life was unraveling in ways he hadn't fully acknowledged even to himself. Troubled at home, his wife Jennifer wanted more than he could provide. Not just more money, though that was part of it. More attention, more ambition, more presence, more of everything. She looked at him with disappointment that had calcified over years into something closer to contempt. He felt like a failure, not dramatically, not in ways that created crises, just the quiet erosion of self-worth that happens when someone you love looks at you every day and you can see in their eyes that you're not enough, have never been enough, will never be enough, no matter what you do. Into that vulnerability, Sarah stepped with precision and patience. She didn't approach him directly at first. She watched him for months, noted his patterns, his moods. The days when he seemed particularly down, shoulders slumped, face reflecting some internal struggle he couldn't voice. The way he checked his phone constantly during his shift, as though hoping for a message from his wife that never came, or came but said things that made him feel worse rather than better. The way his eyes would glaze over during particularly tense moments in the unit, as though he was somewhere else entirely, as though his body was present, but his mind had evacuated to a place less painful than his actual life. Recreation Yard, March 2007. Sarah approaches the fence near Spittler's position. She doesn't look at him directly, just stands there, ostensibly watching other inmates play basketball, positioned so that conversation would be natural if he chose to engage, but wouldn't seem forced or planned if he didn't. After 10 minutes of silence, he does. "Nice day," Spittler says. It's a nothing comment. The kind of thing you say to fill silence when silence has become uncomfortable. "Can I ask you something?" Sarah responds, turning to look at him as though the thought just occurred to her. "Depends what it is. Do you like your job?" The question surprises him. Inmates don't usually ask guards about job satisfaction. They complain about guards, threaten guards, manipulate guards, but they don't express genuine curiosity about guards' inner lives. That's what you want to ask? "I just notice things. You always look somewhere else, like you're thinking about being anywhere but here, like this is the last place you want to be, but you're trapped here anyway." Spittler laughs despite himself, a sound that contains more bitterness than humor. That obvious? Only to people who pay attention. Most inmates don't. They're too focused on their own situations. But I noticed, I watch, and I see someone who seems pretty miserable for someone who theoretically has freedom to leave whenever his shift ends. I should get back to work. For what it's worth, you're one of the good ones. You see us as people, not just inmates or problems to be managed. That's rare, and it matters, even if nobody tells you that. 37 words, 18 seconds, the first crack in a wall that will eventually collapse entirely. These conversations continued for 6 months before anything physical happened, before any line was crossed that couldn't be uncrossed. 6 months of making Scott feel valued, understood, appreciated, in ways his wife no longer made him feel, and maybe never had. Sarah would ask about his kids. What were their names? What grades were they in? What were they interested in? She'd remember details from previous conversations and follow up on them weeks later. Did your son's soccer team win that game you mentioned? Scott hadn't told anyone at work about the soccer game. The fact that Sarah remembered, that she cared enough to ask again, made him feel like someone finally saw him as a complete person rather than just a uniform or a paycheck or a disappointment. By the time physical intimacy occurred, Scott Spittler was already emotionally compromised. The intimate relationship was almost inevitable by that point, the logical conclusion of emotional terrain that had been carefully prepared over months. They found opportunities during her library shifts when other guards were on break, when the cameras had blind spots they'd identified, when circumstances aligned to provide 5 minutes of privacy in an environment designed to prevent exactly that kind of privacy. Quick encounters, furtive, charged with the danger of potential discovery, but enough to seal the bond, to create a shared secret that bound them together in ways that transcended mere emotional connection. What Sarah didn't know, what couldn't have known, the escape almost didn't happen. 3 days before the scheduled date, Scott Spittler sat in his car in the prison parking lot at 2 a.m, unable to go home, unable to face his wife, who'd been asking increasingly pointed questions about his behavior. His hands were shaking. His phone showed 47 missed calls from Jennifer. She'd found something, not direct evidence, but enough to make her suspicious. A text message from an unknown number, a change in his behavior, the way guilty people always change their behavior in subtle ways they think are invisible, but never are. She was threatening to leave, to take the kids, to destroy what remained of their family, which wasn't much, but was all he had. Scott drafted the text to Sarah that would call it off, typed it out carefully. "I can't do this. I'm sorry. My family is falling apart. My wife knows something is wrong. I can't throw away everything for this. I hope you understand." His thumb hovered over for 11 minutes. He stared at the screen, at the words that would end the plan, that would save his career and maybe his marriage and definitely keep him out of federal prison. 11 minutes of thumb hovering, while his entire future balanced on whether he pressed that button. Then his phone buzzed. A message from Sarah, perfectly timed as though she'd sensed his crisis. "I understand if you can't, but I'll remember you tried. That matters to me. You're the only person in this place who's ever seen me as human rather than just a number. Thank you for that, even if nothing comes of it." He read the message 3 times, felt something twist in his chest. She wasn't angry, wasn't threatening, wasn't manipulating, or at least not in any way he could consciously identify. She was releasing him, telling him it was okay to back out, which made backing out suddenly feel like betrayal rather than self-preservation. He deleted his message, stared at the blank screen, made his choice. 3 days later, he drove Sarah Pender through the gates of Indiana Women's Prison and into the mythology of American crime. The plan was absurdly simple, which is why it worked. Complexity creates opportunities for failure. Simplicity, executed with precision, succeeds. Sarah changed into civilian clothes that Scott had smuggled in over several weeks. jeans, a shirt, a jacket, all in neutral colors that wouldn't stand out. She dyed her hair in the library bathroom using hair dye Scott had provided, transforming from blonde to brunette in 15 minutes. She hid her uniform in a ceiling tile where it wouldn't be discovered for 3 days, long enough for her to be far away. And when Scott came to pick up library materials in his official transport vehicle for what appeared to be a routine supply run, she simply climbed into the back, crouched beneath the rear seat in a space she'd measured weeks earlier to ensure she'd fit, and waited. Scott drove to the fuel station as he did every Tuesday afternoon. A normal stop. Something routine enough that nobody questioned it. Nobody paid special attention. The guards at the gate knew him. I knew the routine. Knew that supply. Transport vehicles went out twice a week for fuel and returned 40 minutes later. They waved him through, didn't check the back, didn't do anything except what they'd done hundreds of times before. Log the exit, note the time, return to whatever they'd been doing. And just like that, Sarah Pender was free. For 134 days, she moved through the world as a free woman. She stayed with friends Scott had contacted on her behalf, people from his past who owed him favors and were willing to provide temporary shelter without asking too many questions. She moved between safe houses in Indiana, Illinois, and Kentucky, never staying more than a few weeks in one place, never developing routines that could be tracked or predicted. She dyed her hair multiple times, brunette to red to black to blonde again, cycling through colors like identities. She wore glasses sometimes, hats other times, changed her gait and posture, and the way she held herself. She avoided cameras, stayed away from downtown areas where security was tightest, lived carefully and quietly, knowing that a single mistake, one moment of carelessness, would end her freedom as suddenly as it had begun. The authorities added her to the US Marshals 15 Most Wanted list, the same list that includes individuals who committed acts of terrorism and individuals who committed homicide and fugitives who've evaded capture for years. The media seized the story with barely restrained enthusiasm. Local news became national news, became cable news, talk shows, and crime documentaries, and internet forums devoted to tracking her movements or analyzing her psychology. The narrative they constructed was irresistible to audiences. A female Charles Manson who'd manipulated a corrections officer into helping her escape. The story had everything: intimacy, manipulation, taking off a life, a nationwide manhunt, and the titillating suggestion that women could be just as dangerous as men, just as calculating, just as capable of violence through influence, if not through physical force. But Sarah was smart, smarter than the people hunting her gave her credit for, at least initially. She didn't do anything obvious, didn't try to leave the country, which would have required fake documents and attracted attention at borders, didn't contact family members whose phones were certainly monitored, didn't access her old bank accounts or use her social security number for anything. She simply disappeared into the vast anonymity of America's underclass, living under fake names provided by people in Scott's network, working cash jobs when she needed money, cleaning houses, waiting tables at restaurants that didn't ask for paperwork, babysitting for people who preferred to pay under the table, staying invisible in the way millions of undocumented and semi-legal people stay invisible every day in this country. For 4 months and 13 days, she succeeded. She was free in ways she hadn't been since before her arrest in 2000. She woke up without guards telling her when to wake. She ate what she wanted when she wanted. She walked outside without shackles, without supervision, without the constant weight of surveillance. She watched movies. She read books she chose herself. She had conversations that weren't monitored or restricted. For 134 days, Sarah Pender experienced ordinary life that most people take completely for granted, and she did it while knowing it couldn't last, while waiting for the inevitable moment when someone would recognize her face or connect disparate pieces of information or simply get lucky. Then, on December 11th, 2008, law enforcement received a tip. A woman working at a Jewel Osco grocery store in a Chicago suburb thought she recognized Sarah from news coverage. She watched her for 15 minutes to be sure, compared her to photos she pulled up on her phone, then called police. They moved fast, contacted the US Marshals, confirmed the address where Sarah was staying, coordinated the arrest to minimize risk of violence or another escape. At 6 a.m., they knocked on the apartment door. No dramatic chase, no discharge of a firearm, no foot pursuit through city streets, just a knock. Sarah answered, saw the badges, knew immediately it was over. She raised her hands without being asked, surrendered without resistance, let them handcuff her and walk her to the waiting vehicles while neighbors watched from windows and officers read her rights and photographers captured images that would appear in newspapers across the country within hours. I knew it was over the moment I opened the door, she would later say during one of the many interviews that followed. Living as a fugitive is exhausting. Every siren makes you jump. Every stranger might recognize you. Every day you wake up wondering if this is the day. I had 134 days of freedom, which is more than I expected when we planned this. And they were good days. I won't pretend otherwise, but I was tired of running, tired of hiding, tired of the constant fear. Part of me was actually relieved when they knocked. The Department of Correction was humiliated on a scale that transcended mere embarrassment. Reviews were conducted at every level. Policies were rewritten. Security procedures were overhauled. Every guard at every facility in Indiana underwent additional training specifically about Sarah Pender's escape. A multi-hour seminar that broke down exactly how it happened, what failures of procedure and human judgment enabled it, what warning signs Scott Spittler's supervisors should have seen but didn't. She became a case study in manipulation, her tactics analyzed and explained to guards who are warned repeatedly, this could happen to you. This is what manipulation looks like in real time. These are the steps, the progression, the way someone goes from being a professional to being a criminal, accomplice without ever consciously deciding to cross that line. Scott Spittler was arrested within hours of Sarah's escape being discovered. Didn't even try to hide or run or claim innocence. Confessed immediately when FBI agents showed up at his house. Seemed almost relieved to have it out in the open, to no longer be carrying the weight of what he'd done. He was charged with aiding an escape, a federal crime that carries serious penalties specifically because it undermines the entire prison system. Sentenced to 7 years in federal prison. His career ended instantly. His marriage dissolved within months. Jennifer filed for divorce, got custody of the kids, moved to another state to escape the media attention and the shame of being married to the man who'd helped a convicted homicide offender escape. His life dismantled piece by piece while he sat in a cell, experiencing firsthand what he'd helped Sarah escape, learning in the most direct way possible what incarceration actually means when you're on the receiving end. Sarah was placed in administrative segregation immediately upon her return, not for days or weeks as punishment for specific infractions, but indefinitely. The paperwork used careful language, passive voice, and bureaucratic jargon designed to obscure the vindictiveness at the policy's core. Due to demonstrated ability to manipulate staff and breach institutional security, inmate Pender requires maximum separation from general population and enhanced security protocols until such time as comprehensive risk assessment indicates otherwise. No criteria were specified for what that risk assessment might find or what would indicate otherwise. No timeline was provided for how long indefinitely might mean, just the promise that she'd be reviewed periodically and a decision would be made based on factors that were never clearly defined. She has been there ever since. Nearly 5 years now. 1,827 days and counting. 23 hours a day in isolation. 1 hour out, always alone, always shackled, always supervised by guards who've been trained specifically about her, who know her history, who've been warned to maintain maximum professional distance. No timeline for when this might change. No clear criteria for what she would need to do to earn release back into the general population, let alone release from prison entirely. The official explanation, repeated in every denial of her requests for transfer back to the general population. She's too smart for their facility, too capable, too threatening, not because she might physically hurt anyone. She's never been violent, never assaulted a guard or another inmate, but because she might manipulate someone else into helping her, because she's proven herself capable of identifying vulnerabilities in staff and exploiting them with precision that even trained professionals couldn't detect until it was too late. When asked directly why she escaped, Sarah answers without hesitation, without the carefully measured responses she gives to most questions. Because I couldn't accept that 110 years was my entire life. Because I was 21 when they sentenced me, and I would be 81 before I was eligible for parole. Because 60 years in prison for something I maintain I didn't do. I didn't pull the trigger. I didn't plan the homicides. I was guilty of helping cover up crimes after they happened, but not of orchestrating them. Felt like an end-of-life sentence. I had to try. I had to prove to myself that I wasn't just a number in their system, that I still had agency, that I could still make choices even if those choices came with consequences. She pauses, then adds something she wouldn't have said 5 years ago, something that years of isolation have perhaps made her willing to acknowledge. But mostly, I embarrass them. That's the real reason I'm in segregation. Not because I'm dangerous to people, because I'm dangerous to their reputation, because they can't afford to let me back into any situation where I might embarrass them again. So they bury me where no one can see me, where I can't interact with anyone who might be vulnerable to manipulation, where I slowly go insane in isolation as punishment not for what I did, but for making them look foolish. And so she remains the woman who proved that even maximum security can be breached, knowing her punishment for escaping will last far longer than many people serve for the crimes that brought them to prison in the first place. Knowing that somewhere in federal prison, Scott Spittler sits in his own cell, paying for the choice he made to help her, destroying his family to give her 134 days of freedom that must now seem impossibly distant to both of them. Generations of iron, the Hart's family, curse. Some families pass down land, businesses, traditions of honor and success. The Hart's family passed down something else. Cell door, closing again and again across generations, like a hereditary disease that shows up in every bloodline, predictable as blue eyes or curly hair, seemingly inescapable. Addie Hartz was 25 when she arrived at Indiana Women's Prison, still young enough that her face held traces of the teenager she'd been just years earlier, old enough that she carried herself with the hardness of someone who'd already seen too much, experienced too much trauma, made too many mistakes to ever fully return to innocence. Third generation of her bloodline to wear prison orange. Her grandmother had been incarcerated in the 1970s for check fraud that escalated into assault when police tried to arrest her. She served 3 years. Her mother Crystal for attempted taking of a life and aggravated robbery. 15 years, released after 9 for good behavior. Back inside within 18 months for violating parole. And now Addie sat in Unit 13, making Mother's Day cards for daughters who were learning the same patterns she'd learned from her mother, who'd learned them from her mother before her. An inheritance more certain than money or property, more persistent than love. The cycle was so predictable, it had ceased to surprise anyone in the family. When Addie was arrested at 18 for her first strong-arm robbery, her grandfather, the only consistent adult in her life, the one person who'd never been incarcerated, who tried desperately to break the pattern. His first words weren't shock or denial, or the protest that surely there must be some mistake. He simply asked, with a resignation that spoke volumes, "How long?" As though her incarceration was a weather event to be endured rather than a catastrophe to be prevented. As though the question wasn't whether, but when and for how long this time. But today's session in the recreation room, where several women sit making cards and crafts, is interrupted by a call that changes everything. Hearts. Unit office. Now, the walk to the unit office always means something, never neutral. Either good news or bad news, usually bad. Addie's stomach drops before she even opens the door, before she sees Councillor Davies sitting behind the desk with that expression councillors get when they have to deliver information they wish they didn't have to deliver. Information that will hurt someone who's already been hurt plenty. Inside sits Councillor Davies, holding a phone with one hand while making notes with the other. "Your father called. It's about your brother." Addie's stomach drops further, though she already knows, has known since the moment she heard her name called, what this is going to be about. Because the pattern is so strong, so inevitable, that it announces itself before the facts do. What did he do? He was arrested last night. Armed robbery. Casey's General Store on 38th Street. They caught him half a block away with the cash and the handheld weapon. They're charging him as an adult. I'm 18 years old. Jason. The baby brother Addie helped raise them when their mother was inside. Exactly the same age Addie was when she started down this path, when she committed her first robbery, when she made the choice that would define the rest of her life. Not the same crime. Addie's robberies were strong-arm, physical intimidation without weapons, but close enough. The family curse, claiming another generation with mechanical predictability. Is he okay? I mean, did anyone get hurt? Nobody was hurt. The clerk complied immediately. Your brother got about $300 from the register. He's in Marion County lockup now. Your father wants to know if you'll talk to him. Try to scare him straight. Addie laughs, bitter, sharp, a sound that contains no actual humor, just acid and despair. Scare him straight. Look where I am. I am the warning. If I wasn't enough to scare him straight, if watching me go through this wasn't enough, what the hell am I supposed to say now that will make any difference? Davies nods slowly. She's been a prison counselor for 12 years. She's seen this pattern before, seen it so many times it no longer surprises her, though it still makes her sad in ways she has to hide, because counselors aren't supposed to show emotion, aren't supposed to let on that the human tragedy of their work affects them personally. Families where incarceration passes from generation to generation like a genetic disease, where children grow up knowing prison not as aberration, but as destination, not as a worst-case scenario, but as a likely outcome. The question isn't whether you'll end up inside, but when and for how long, and whether you'll get out in time to watch your own children start the same cycle. Your father also said your daughter asked if she could visit. Melissa wants to see you. And now there are two crossroads, two crisis points converging in the same conversation. Addie's brother, 18 and facing adult charges in county lockup, staring down a sentence that could be 5 years or 10 or more, depending on factors he doesn't understand and can't control. And Addie's daughter, 9 years old, and asking to visit the mother who's been gone for a year, the mother who keeps promising change and keeps demonstrating that change is harder than promises, maybe impossible for people like them. Both of them standing at crossroads, both needing guidance Addie can't provide from behind these walls, both needing someone to show them a different path, but that someone can't be Addie because she's never walked a different path herself, has no map to offer except the same map that led her here. Tell him I'll call after dinner, Addie says, her voice suddenly tired in a way that makes her sound older than 25, makes her sound ancient. And tell Melissa, yes, God, yes. Tell her I want to see her more than anything. Tell her I miss her every single day. Tell her... Addie's voice breaks. Just tell her yes. Davies makes notes on her pad. The visit needs to be scheduled through your father, since Melissa's a minor. He'll need to bring her and stay for the duration. Are you sure you want her to see you here? Some mothers prefer their kids to remember them for free rather than seeing them confined. It's a fair question, asked not out of judgment, but out of genuine concern for what's best for the child. Some incarcerated mothers refuse visits from their children, believing it's better for the kids to remember them as they were, rather than to see them in orange uniforms sitting at bolted tables in rooms designed to remind everyone present that this is punishment, that the people in orange have failed in fundamental ways and their failure has consequences. But Addie can't do that. The absence is already hurting her alive, consuming her from the inside in ways that make every day harder than the one before. The thought of seeing Melissa, even in a visiting room with guards and rules and time limits that will make the entire experience feel artificial and wrong, feels like oxygen to someone struggling. I'm sure I need to see her. She needs to know I still love her even if I'm not there, even if I can't be there. She needs to know I didn't just disappear, didn't just abandon her by choice. Okay, I'll let your father know. We can probably schedule it for next weekend if he's available. Addie stands to leave, but Davy stops her with a hand gesture. Addie, about your brother. You can't save him. You know that, right? This is his choice, his path. You being here didn't make him do this. You're not responsible for his decisions. Aren't I? He grew up watching me follow the same path Mom walked. Watching Mom follow the path Grandma walked. We're teaching them that this is normal, that this is just what happens in our family, that prison is just part of life like school or work or anything else. We're not a warning, we're a roadmap. We're proof that you can end up here and survive it, which makes it seem less scary, makes it seem possible, makes it seem like one option among many instead of the catastrophe it actually is. That's not your fault, isn't it? When does it become our fault, counselor? When does the pattern become something we're responsible for breaking instead of something we just keep perpetuating? At what point do we stop being victims of circumstance and become architects of our own destruction? Davies has no answer for this because the truth is complicated in ways that resist simple formulation. Personal responsibility and systemic factors intertwine until they're impossible to separate cleanly. Yes, Addie made choices, but she made those choices in a context shaped by poverty, by lack of opportunity, by growing up in a family where incarceration was normalized, by attending schools that pushed her out rather than supporting her, by living in neighborhoods where legal opportunities were scarce and illegal ones were abundant, by experiencing trauma that was never addressed or cared for, by having a brain that was still developing when she made decisions that would define the rest of her life. Where does personal responsibility end and social determinism begin? Where is the line between agency and circumstance? These are questions philosophers debate and policymakers ignore, and people like Addie live with every day without the luxury of abstract analysis. Addie leaves the office and returns to Unit 13. The Mother's Day cards she'd been working on are still on the table where she left them. 3 of them. One for her mother Crystal, who lives 2 hours away and hasn't visited in 3 years, hasn't even written in 6 months, seems to have decided that staying away is easier than maintaining connection, that pretending Addie doesn't exist is less painful than acknowledging her existence and inability to help. One for each of her daughters, Melissa, age 9, Kaylee, age 7. The irony is not lost on her. She's making Mother's Day cards from prison. She's doing the same thing her mother did when Addie was young, the same thing her grandmother probably did. The pattern, repeating with such perfect fidelity, it might as well be choreographed. Meanwhile, In another part of Indiana, in her grandfather's modest house, in a neighborhood that used to be nice before the factories closed and the jobs left and the substances arrived, Melissa sits cross-legged on her bed, phone in hand, a cheap prepaid phone her grandfather gave her for emergencies, staring at the call button that would connect her to her mother in prison. She's been staring at it for 20 minutes, thumb hovering, unable to decide whether making the call would make things better or worse, unable to predict whether hearing her mother's voice would provide comfort or just remind her of everything that's missing, everything that's wrong, everything that should be different but isn't, and maybe never will be. Her grandfather told her she can call if she wants, gave her the number and the access code, and walked away to give her privacy, to let her make this decision without pressure or observation. But calling requires deciding, and deciding requires thinking about things Melissa has been trying very hard not to think about. Everyone in her family ends up in prison. This is a fact she's understood since she was 6 years old, since she was old enough to notice patterns, but too young to question whether patterns could be broken. Her great-grandmother, whom she never met, her grandmother Crystal, whom she barely knows, her mother Addie, who's been gone more than she's been present for Melissa's entire life. Now her uncle Jason, who used to be fun, who used to play with her and make her laugh, who's been arrested and will probably go away for years. The pattern is so clear that even a 9-year-old can see it, can extrapolate forward, can understand that if nothing changes, if the pattern holds, she and her sister Kaylee will probably end up the same way eventually, will probably make the same mistakes, will probably end up in orange uniforms, sitting in visiting rooms, telling their own children that this time will be different, knowing even as they say it that it's probably a lie, that the pattern is stronger than promises. Her teacher once asked the class to draw their families. This was 2nd grade, when Melissa was 7 and still believed her mother would be home soon, still believed things would get better. Other kids drew stick figures holding hands outside stick figure houses with stick figure dogs and trees and suns shining in corners. Melissa drew her grandfather, herself and her sister, and her mother, very carefully, with more detail than the others, with the kind of attention you give to something you're trying to hold on to even as it slips away, behind bars. She even drew the bars in orange crayon, because that's the color. Her mother's uniform was in the last photo Melissa had seen, because she wanted the picture to be accurate, wanted to represent reality as it actually was, rather than how she wished it could be. The teacher saw the picture and her face changed. Melissa remembers that change, remembers the way the teacher's expression went from casual interest to concern to something like pity. The teacher called a conference with Melissa's grandfather. Resources were offered, counseling, support groups for children with incarcerated parents. Melissa went to 2 sessions and quit. The other kids talked about missing their parents, about how hard it was, about their feelings. Melissa didn't want to talk about feelings, didn't want to sit in a circle with other kids whose parents were in prison and pretend that talking about it would make it better. She wanted her mother home, or she wanted to stop caring that her mother wasn't home, one or the other. But sitting in a circle, talking about feelings accomplished neither of those things. She opens her notes app on the phone, the place where she writes things she can't say out loud, where she processes thoughts that feel too big or too dangerous to share with adults who would just worry or try to fix things that can't be fixed. Things to tell Mom when I visit. I got an A on my math test. She'll be proud. My sister lost her first tooth. She should know that. Uncle Jason got arrested. She probably knows, but I should mention it. I don't want to visit anymore after this. Can't actually say this. She stares at number 4. She's typed it and deleted it 6 times today, written it and erased it, tried to make the words not exist, but they keep coming back because they're true, even if she can't say them out loud. The truth is more complicated than 4 simple words can contain. She doesn't want to visit, but she also desperately wants to visit. She wants her mother to be someone different than who she is. She wants to walk into that visiting room and find a mother who's changed, who's learned, who's ready to be the parent Melissa needs, instead of another person Melissa has to worry about and manage and forgive over and over again for failing in the same ways her own mother failed. But Melissa knows that won't happen. She's only 9, but she understands the pattern, has seen it enough times to know that hoping for change is like hoping for snow in July. Possible in theory, but unlikely enough that planning around it would be foolish. The pattern is too strong. Mum will cry and apologize and promise. And Melissa will want to believe her, because who doesn't want to believe their mother? And in a year or 2, Mum will be arrested again, and they'll have this same conversation again, and the cycle will continue until Melissa is old enough to break it herself, or old enough to join it, to become another link in the chain, to prove that the pattern is stronger than any individual will to resist it. Her grandfather's footsteps on the stairs, heavy, tired. He's 68, years old, and raising 2 granddaughters while managing his son's legal troubles, trying to hold together a family that keeps fracturing no matter what he does. He didn't sign up for this. He raised his daughter, got her to 18, thought his job was done. That should have been enough. But the cycle doesn't care about fairness or who's tired. It just keeps turning, claiming generation after generation, requiring the same people to step up repeatedly to manage consequences they didn't create and can't prevent. A knock on her door, gentle, tentative. Honey, yeah? Your mum's going to call in 20 minutes. The prison just confirmed. Do you want to talk to her? Melissa looks at number 4. One more time. Hovers her thumb over the delete key. Then closes the app without deleting anything, without deciding anything, just postponing the decision until later. Yeah, Grandpa, I want to talk to her. Because even though she knows how this ends, even though she knows the pattern will continue, even though she's 9 years old and already exhausted by loving someone who keeps leaving, she can't not love her mother, can't not hope, can't not want the impossible thing that would make everything make sense and be okay. She's trapped in the same pattern as everyone else in her family, not by crimes she's committed. She hasn't committed any, has been a good kid by any measure, makes good grades and follows rules and doesn't cause problems, but by love for people who commit them. I hope that someday it will be different, even when evidence suggests otherwise. By the refusal to give up even when giving up would hurt less, would be easier, would make logical sense. And maybe that's the real family curse. Not the crimes themselves, not the arrests or the convictions or the years spent behind bars, but the hope that never quite fades, the love that never quite ends, the pattern that claims you whether you commit crimes or not, whether you wear orange or just visit people who do, whether you're inside the walls or outside them. The phone rings exactly 20 minutes later. Melissa answers on the second ring. Melissa. Her mother's voice is thick with emotion, barely holding together. Hi, Mom. Oh, baby, I've missed you so much. How are you? Tell me everything. And Melissa does. Sort of. She tells edited versions of things, stories that don't include how hard everything is, how tired Grandpa looks, how Kaylee wets the bed now and won't talk about why, how Melissa herself has stomach aches every morning before school that the doctor says are anxiety, but might as well be called having a mother in prison and an uncle in jail, and a pattern that seems inescapable. She tells her mother what her mother wants to hear, that she's fine, that school is good, that she got an A on her math test, that everything is okay. She doesn't mention number 4 on her list, doesn't say she's not sure she wants to visit again, because saying it would hurt her mother, and Melissa has been conditioned by circumstances to protect adults from consequences of their own actions, to manage emotions that should be managed by the adults themselves, to be more mature than her years should require. When the call ends 15 minutes later, they only get 15 minutes. The automated system cuts them off mid-sentence. Melissa sits on her bed, holding the silent phone, thinking about the visit next weekend, wondering if she'll find the courage to say what she really feels, or if she'll just smile and pretend and make it easier for everyone except herself. The pattern continues, the cycle turns, and somewhere in the distance, barely visible, Melissa stands at a crossroads she doesn't fully understand yet, making choices that will determine whether she becomes the generation that breaks the curse or the generation that continues it into a 5th iteration. The 4 children of Paula McIntosh. When Paula McIntosh arrived at intake, she carried not just charges of possession of controlled substances and probation violation. She carried the weight of 4 names, 4 children who had already grown accustomed to her absence, who had already begun the process of learning to live without her, who represented 4 different versions of what happens to kids when addiction steals their mother. She was 28 years old. She'd been an addict for 11 years, 17 when it began, a boyfriend at a party, a line of powder that promised to make everything better, a feeling that made everything else disappear in ways that seemed miraculous at first, before the miracle became a prison of its own. That first high was everything the movies promised: euphoria, confidence, energy. The world suddenly made sense in a way it never had before. Problems that had seemed unsolvable vanished. Anxieties that had plagued her for years evaporated. She felt powerful, capable, limitless. 3 days later, she tried it again. Then a week later, then twice a week, then daily, then multiple times daily. Then she couldn't remember a day when she wasn't using or planning to use, or coming down from using or suffering through the crash that followed. By 19, controlled substances dependency wasn't a choice anymore. It was the organizing principle of her existence, the thing around which everything else orbited, the need that superseded every other need, including the needs of the children she kept having, because addiction doesn't prevent pregnancy. doesn't make you careful, doesn't allow for planning or responsibility or any of the things that should come before bringing new lives into the world. She has 4 children now. The oldest was 13. The youngest was 6. The years of their lives and her addiction overlapped almost completely. Michael was born when Paula was 15, before the substances, during a brief window when her life might have gone differently. But Aisha, Marcus, and Emma, all of them were born into a household where controlled substance abuse was as constant as oxygen, as unremarkable as furniture, as normal as anything else in their chaotic, unstable world. Those 4 children are living 4 different versions of Paula's absence, 4 different strategies for surviving when the person who should be your primary attachment figure is instead a ghost who appears and disappears according to patterns you can't predict or control. Michael, the ghost child. 13-year-old Michael hasn't spoken to his mother in 8 months. Not because visits are prohibited. He's allowed to visit. His foster family would take him if he asked, because he's chosen not to. His therapist, assigned by the foster care system after Michael started having panic attacks at school, calls this emotional separation for protection. She says it's Michael's way of protecting himself, that he's learned hoping for Paula to get clean is like hoping for gravity to reverse, that the only way he can survive emotionally is to treat his mother as already gone, already lost to him in ways that can't be recovered. And that's exactly what Michael tells people when they ask. My mum passed away when I was 5. He's told this lie so many times with such consistency and conviction that he almost believes it himself. It's easier than explaining the truth, easier than watching people's faces when he says, "My mum's in prison for substance abuse," easier than fielding the questions that always follow, the pitying looks, the awkward silences, the suggestions that he should forgive her or support her or maintain hope when hope has proven itself to be toxic. Michael's foster family is the Hendersons, Rob and Patricia, late 40s, professional class. They live in a nice house in a good neighborhood, the kind of place with sidewalks and trees and people who wave to each other, the kind of place Michael's mother could never afford and that wouldn't have maintained even if she could. They're good people. They really are. They try hard to make Michael feel like he belongs. They include him in family dinners where everyone talks about their day. They remember his birthday and buy him presents that show they've paid attention to what he likes. They attend his robotics competitions and cheer for his team. They ask about his homework and his friends and whether he's okay. But there's a difference, subtle but undeniable, in how they talk to their biological kids versus how they talk to Michael. With their own children, Emma age 9, Sam age 7, the Hendersons have an ease, a casual confidence that comes from knowing these kids completely, from having known them since birth, from sharing genetics and history and all the invisible bonds that make a family. They can read their kids' moods, anticipate their needs, and communicate in shorthand that doesn't require full sentences. With Michael, they're always slightly uncertain, always trying a bit too hard, always using full sentences and explicit praise because they're not sure what he's thinking, and they want to make sure he knows he's valued. I'm proud of you for making good choices, Michael. Great job on that test, Michael. We're so happy you're here, Michael. Their own kids just get good job or well done or nothing at all, because the pride is assumed, doesn't need to be stated. With Michael, everything must be stated, must be made explicit, because the relationship is still being built, still uncertain, still requiring maintenance in ways that biological relationships often don't. Michael hears these differences, even when the Hendersons don't intend them. He knows he's a project to them, a good project, a project they genuinely care about, but still a project, something they're working on, trying to fix, hoping will turn out well, but knowing there are no guarantees. He knows this because he hears them talking sometimes late at night when they think he's asleep. Their bedroom is next to the guest room that became Michael's room, and the walls are thin. I think he's doing better, Patricia says. He smiled today at dinner. That's the third time this week. And Rob responds, I hope so. I just wish we knew what he was thinking. He keeps everything inside. I don't know if that's healthy, or if we should be pushing him to open up more. Michael keeps everything inside because that's what you do when you've learned that the people who are supposed to love you will leave. His father left before he was born. Paula has always been vague about who Michael's father even was. Some guy she dated briefly in high school, gone before she knew she was pregnant. His mother leaves every time she uses, even when she's physically present, especially when she's physically present, because then Michael can see the difference between mom and the thing that looks like mom but isn't really there. The hollow-eyed woman who doesn't recognize him or remember what she said 10 minutes ago, or notice when he's crying. The Hendersons are nice, but Michael has learned not to attach. Attaching means risk, means vulnerability, means opening yourself to pain when people inevitably leave or change or turn out to be different than they seemed. Better to stay detached. Better to be polite and compliant and cause no problems while keeping your actual self locked away where it can't be hurt. Michael makes excellent grades, straight A's since 3rd grade. Teachers love him. He's quiet, respectful, always prepared, never causes disruptions. He joined the robotics club at school and discovered he has a genuine talent for engineering, for understanding how systems work and how to build things that function. His foster parents took him to a regional competition last month where his team placed 3rd. They were so proud, took dozens of photos, posted them on Facebook with the caption, "So proud of our Michael." Our Michael, not their son, not part of the family in the way that suggests permanence or irreversibility. Our Michael, because he belongs to them in the way pets belong to their owners, through acquisition and care and good intentions rather than through blood and history and bonds that can't be broken no matter what. Michael sees the distinction even when others don't, and he's decided, with a clarity and determination that only 13-year-olds can muster, that he will never depend on anyone again. He will excel in school, get scholarships, go to college far away, MIT maybe, or Stanford, somewhere that marks you as successful and exceptional and different from where you came from. Build a life so successful and separate that no one will ever ask about his mother or his childhood or the years he spent bouncing between relatives and foster homes while Paula McIntosh chased the next high with the single-minded focus most people reserve for careers or relationships. He's deleted his mother from his life the way you delete a computer file. She still exists somewhere in the system, in memory if you go looking for her. But she's no longer accessible, no longer taking up space in daily operations, no longer able to damage the programs that are actually running, the life he's actually building. When the social worker calls, they call every few months to ask if Michael wants to participate in family therapy with Paula, to maintain connection, to leave the door open for potential reconciliation. He gives the same answer every time. No, thank you. I'm doing well without contact. I don't want to disrupt my progress by reintroducing someone who's been consistently harmful to my well-being. The language is therapeutic, borrowed from his own therapist, designed to make his refusal sound reasonable and healthy rather than cold or cruel. Because Michael knows that adults expect children to want their parents, to forgive their parents, to maintain hope for their parents. Saying he just doesn't want to see her sounds harsh. Saying it in therapeutic language makes it sound like wisdom. The social worker always sounds disappointed. I understand, Michael, but you know, your mother is trying. She's in a recovery program now. She's making progress. Would you consider writing her a letter? You don't have to visit. Just a letter to let her know you're okay. She knows I'm okay. The system provides her with updates on my well-being. She doesn't need to hear it from me. It might help her recovery to hear from you directly, to know that you're safe and doing well. Her recovery is her responsibility, not mine. I'm not responsible for helping her get clean. I'm a child. That's not my job. More therapeutic language, more borrowed wisdom, but also the truth. Michael is 13 years old. He shouldn't have to be anyone's motivation for sobriety. He should just be allowed to be a kid. The social worker gives up. Make a note in the file. Minor continues to refuse contact with mother. Appears to be coping well in current placement. Attachment to foster family development appropriately. Recommend continued monitoring, but no forced contact. And Michael goes back to his homework, his robotics club, his systematic construction of a life that has no room for the woman who gave birth to him and then disappeared into a chemical fog, who chose substances over him again and again, who proved through repeated actions that her love for him, whatever form it took, was insufficient to overcome her addiction. Aisha, the believer, 12-year-old Aisha has her mother's eyes, the same green-brown hazel that changes color in different light, that looks almost gold in sunshine and dark brown in shadow. And she has inherited her mother's most challenging quality, the capacity for hope in the face of overwhelming evidence that hope is irrational. She keeps every letter Paula sends in a shoebox under her bed. 47 letters accumulated over 4 years. She counted them. She's numbered them chronologically. She organizes them by date and sometimes reads through them in order, looking for patterns, looking for signs of change, looking for evidence that this time might be different, even though every past time has proven the same. Each letter says roughly the same thing, with variations so minor they barely count as variation at all. My beautiful Aisha, I'm so sorry I haven't written in so long. Time gets away from me here, but I think about you every single day. You're my sunshine, my reason for wanting to get better. I'm doing well now, really well this time. Not like before. I'm taking classes, learning about addiction, about why I made the choices I made, about how to make different choices. When I get out, and I will get out soon. The parole board meets next month. Things will be different. I promise. We'll be a real family. I'll take you and your brothers and sister to the park. We'll have movie nights. I'll help you with your homework. All the things we should have been doing all along. I'm going to be the mother you deserve. I love you so much, more than you can possibly know. Love. Mom Aisha believes her. Not completely. She's not naive. She's read enough of these letters to notice that the promises rarely match reality. But enough to keep writing back, enough to keep hoping, enough to keep organizing these letters in chronological order as though they tell a story with a beginning and middle and eventual happy ending, as though someday she'll be able to look back and say, this was when things changed. This was when Mom finally got clean. This was when our real life started. But the hope comes with a cost. Aisha has started having panic attacks at school. They started 6 months ago. She'll be sitting in class, taking notes, or listening to the teacher, or just staring out the window during a particularly boring lesson. And suddenly, her chest gets tight, and her breathing gets fast and shallow, and the room starts spinning, and she can't remember where she is or what she's supposed to be doing. The first time it happened, the school nurse called an ambulance. They transported her to the ER, where doctors ran tests, EKG, blood work, chest x-ray. Everything came back normal. The ER doctor, kind but clearly puzzled, finally asked, "Is there stress at home?" Grandmother, Paula's mother, Aisha's maternal grandmother, 68 years old and raising a grandchild she hadn't planned to raise, said, "No more than usual." But usual for Aisha includes having a mother in prison for the third time, having a father who's somewhere in Michigan, according to vague family reports. She hasn't seen him since she was 4, doesn't remember what he looks like except in photographs that might as well be of a stranger. Having a living situation with her elderly grandmother that everyone treats as temporary, even though it's lasted 4 years and shows no signs of changing. Usual for Aisha includes waking up every morning not knowing if this is the day she'll be moved to a different placement, wondering if grandmother's health will fail and she'll end up in foster care like Michael, living with strangers who try their best but can never be family. Usual includes watching her grandmother struggle financially, including knowing that she's a burden no matter how much grandmother insists otherwise, includes the constant low-grade anxiety of existing in a situation that's meant to be temporary but has no expiration date and no plan for what comes next. The panic attacks happen most often during quiet moments, during transitions, when she's waiting for something, when there's nothing to distract her from thinking about the precariousness of her situation, about how quickly everything could fall apart, about what happens when she ages out of the system, or when grandmother gets too old to care for her, or when Paula gets out and tries to regain custody, and Aisha has to watch her mother fail again. Aisha writes letters back to Paula. Keep them carefully light and positive. Tell her about school, the A she got on her history project, the book she's reading for English class, the friend she made who also likes to draw. She mentions the friend moved away. This happened 2 months ago and still makes Aisha sad when she thinks about it, but frames it as just one of those things, rather than as another abandonment in a life full of abandonments. She doesn't tell Paula about the panic attacks, doesn't mention that she's seeing a therapist now, court mandated after the 3rd ER visit, someone to help her process her feelings about her mother's incarceration and the disruption to her family system. Though Aisha isn't sure what there is to process that isn't already obvious, doesn't burden her mother with the truth that Aisha is struggling in fear and loneliness and the crushing weight of hoping for someone who's never going to arrive, who keeps promising arrival but somehow never actually shows up, who exists primarily in letters full of promises that evaporate the moment they're tested by reality. Paula always responds to Aisha's letters with enthusiasm that would be touching if it weren't so disconnected from actual follow-through. "I'm so proud of you. Keep reading. Friends come and go, but family is forever. I can't wait to see you. Family is forever." Aisha wants to believe this, needs to believe it really, because without it, what does she have? But her experience suggests otherwise. Family is a thing that disappears when you need it most. Family is the mother who chooses substances over you, the father who leaves and never comes back, the grandmother who sighs every time you ask for something because she already raised her children and shouldn't have to raise theirs. But Aisha keeps hoping, keep writing, keeps organizing those 47 letters in chronological order as though they constitute evidence of something, as though quantity can substitute for quality, as though enough letters promising change might eventually produce actual change through sheer accumulation. The shoebox is red. It used to hold shoes Paula bought for Aisha's 8th birthday, the last birthday they spent together before this most recent arrest, before Paula violated probation again and ended up back inside. White sneakers with pink laces that Aisha loved so much, she wore them until they literally fell apart, until the soles separated from the uppers and even duct tape couldn't hold them together anymore. The shoes wore out years ago, but the box remains, repurposed as a reliquary for paper promises, organized by date as though dates matter, as though you could track improvement over time, as though next month's letter might be the one that's different, that signals actual change rather than just another iteration of promises that sound good in writing, but dissolve on contact with reality. Marcus, the numb 9-year-old. Marcus barely remembers his mother without substances. His earliest memories, the few that survived whatever psychological process determines which childhood memories persist and which vanish, are already contaminated by the fog of Paula's addiction. He remembers a woman who slept all day and stayed awake all night, pacing the apartment with manic energy, talking to herself or to people who weren't there, who forgot to buy groceries so there was nothing to eat except whatever was left from school lunch, who promised to take him to the park and then forgot she'd promised, asked why he was bothering her about the park, insisted she'd never said anything about the park. When Paula's father, Marcus's grandfather, 71 years old and supposed to be done working, took custody 2 years ago after Paula was arrested yet again, Marcus adjusted faster than anyone expected. The social worker remarked on it in her reports. Child demonstrates remarkable resilience, appears to have bonded with grandfather, shows no distress about mother's absence. What she meant was, he doesn't seem to miss his mother. Don't cry about her. Don't ask when she's coming back. doesn't express any of the normal grief or confusion that children usually demonstrate when separated from parents. And he doesn't. Not in the way Aisha misses Paula, with that desperate hope that hurts to watch. Not in the way that creates longing or grief or even anger. Marcus doesn't feel much of anything about his mother. He's learned at 9 years old what many people don't learn until much later, if they ever learn it at all. That you can stop caring about someone, not because you want to, but because caring hurts too much, and your body eventually decides that emotional disengagement is preferable to constant pain. Marcus misses the idea of having a mother, the way you might miss a vacation you never took, or a pet you never had. It would be nice if it existed, but since it doesn't, since it never really has, why waste energy wishing? Wishing changes nothing. Hoping accomplishes nothing except making you vulnerable to disappointment. Better to expect nothing. Better to want nothing. Better to feel nothing. His grandfather is okay. Quiet, tired. Not warm exactly, but not cold either. Just sort of neutral. A steady presence that makes few demands and offers few comforts, but provides the basics. Food, shelter, clean clothes, rides to school. He makes sure Marcus has what he needs for school. Make sure he does his homework. Make sure he gets to bed at a reasonable time. That's more consistency than Marcus experienced in his first 7 years. It's enough. Not what you'd see in movies about happy families, but enough for basic functioning, enough for survival. And Marcus has learned to define success as survival rather than happiness, because happiness seems like an unrealistic goal when your mother is in prison and your father is unknown and your life is fundamentally unstable. Marcus doesn't ask when his mum is coming home. Don't ask to call her. Don't ask about her at all. When people mention her, when grandfather says, "Your mother called," or when the social worker during her monthly check-in asks, "Do you want to talk about your mother?" Marcus gives polite, automatic responses designed to end the conversation as quickly as possible. "That's nice. I'm doing fine, thank you. Can I go play now?" He's learned through observation and experience that showing indifference makes adults uncomfortable, but uncomfortable adults eventually leave you alone, which is what he wants. If he cried or acted out or showed obvious distress, they'd intervene. They'd schedule more therapy sessions. They'd probe and ask questions and try to get him to express feelings he either doesn't have or has successfully buried so deep that accessing them would require more effort than they're worth. But a child who seems fine, who seems adjusted, who causes no problems and makes no demands, that child gets to be left alone. And Marcus wants to be left alone. He's discovered video, games. Grandfather has an old PlayStation 2 that still works, controllers worn smooth from years of use. Marcus plays for hours when grandfather allows it, lost in worlds that make sense in ways his real world never has. In video games, if you fail, you restart. Try again. Learn from mistakes. Eventually, succeed through practice and persistence. In real life, failure just accumulates until it buries you. In real life, there are no do-overs, no continues, no way to go back and make different choices. But in games, every failure is temporary. Every loss is recoverable. The rules are clear and consistent. Success is achievable through effort alone. Marcus is good at school, but doesn't excel. B's and C's. Enough to pass. Enough that teachers don't worry about him or schedule conferences with his grandfather. Not enough to draw attention, or raise expectations, or make people think he's capable of more than he's giving. Flying under the radar is Marcus's primary survival strategy. Don't be the best. Don't be the worst. Be unremarkable. Be forgettable. Be the kind of kid who passes through the system without leaving impressions. When Paula calls, she's allowed one phone call per week to family, though she doesn't always use it. Sometimes goes weeks without calling because she's dealing with her own issues inside. Marcus is polite but brief. Hi, Mom. Hi, baby. How are you? Fine. How's school? Good. I miss you so much. I think about you every day. Okay. I'll be home soon. We'll do something special together. Maybe go to the zoo? You always love the zoo. Okay. I love you. Love you too. The words are automatic. Requires no thought. He says them because that's what you're supposed to say, because not saying them would create problems, would make the call longer, would require explanation. Easier to just say the words and let everyone pretend they mean something. And then he hands the phone back to grandfather and returns to his video game where he was in the middle of a level, where he was making progress, where success depends only on his own skills rather than on adults following through on promises they never keep. Emma, the erased one, 6-year-old. Emma is too young to understand prison in the way her older siblings understand it. She knows her mommy lives somewhere else, somewhere you can't visit without grandfather taking you in the car for a long time, longer than it takes to get to school or the grocery store, so long that Emma gets bored and cranky and eventually falls asleep in the back seat. But the concept doesn't fully compute, doesn't integrate into her understanding of how the world works. To Emma, who's still figuring out basic cause and effect, still learning that people exist even when you can't see them. Her mother exists in the same category as characters in books, present in stories and photographs, but not in actual life. Not in ways that affect day-to-day experience, real in some ways, but not in the ways that matter. Not in the way that grandfather is real, or Marcus, or Mrs. Chen from next door, who babysits sometimes and always has cookies. She started telling people she has 2 mummies, which causes confusion and requires explanation from adults who then have to figure out how to explain to a 6-year-old what prison is and why her mother is there without traumatizing her or making her feel shame about something that isn't her fault. The one on the phone who says, "I love you," and makes promises about future activities they'll do together. The zoo, the park, McDonald's, all the places that sound exciting but never actually happen. And the one in her memory, increasingly vague, increasingly abstract, more like an idea of a mother than an actual person she remembers interacting with. Last month at school, Emma's kindergarten class did a family tree project. Each child was supposed to draw their family and write names next to the drawings. The teacher provided a template, a tree with branches where you could draw people and write their names and how they were related to you. Emma drew grandfather, drew Marcus, drew herself, or at least her best attempt at drawing herself, which looked more like a stick figure with yellow scribbles for hair. The teacher came over, looked at the picture, and smiled. "That's a good start, Emma. Where's your mommy and daddy?" Emma thought about this. Consider the question seriously. Where's your mommy and daddy? Wasn't just asking for information. It was asking where they were on the tree, where they belonged in the picture. "My mommy lives in a picture frame," Emma said finally. The teacher's smile faltered. "What do you mean?" "The picture on grandfather's table. That's where my mommy lives." It made perfect sense to Emma. Her mother existed in the photograph on grandfather's table, a picture from years ago when Paula was younger and healthier and not yet completely consumed by addiction. Emma saw that picture every day. That's where her mother lived, in the frame, on the table, not in real life where Emma actually existed. The teacher, unsure how to respond, changed the subject, helped Emma finish her tree with the people who were actually present in her life. But later that day, the teacher called grandfather for a conference, expressed concern, offered resources, used terms like trauma-informed care and age-appropriate grief counseling. Grandfather, exhausted, agreed to consider counseling mostly to get the teacher to stop talking, to end the conversation so he could go home and figure out dinner and help Marcus with homework and manage all the other responsibilities of caring for children who shouldn't be his responsibility but are. The counselor assigned to Emma, a cheerful woman named Miss Patricia, who has an office filled with toys and books and child-sized furniture designed to make children feel comfortable, tried to get Emma to express feelings about her mother using play therapy techniques, letting Emma tell stories through dolls and drawing and games that were supposed to reveal emotional truth that direct questions couldn't access. "Do you remember your mommy?" Miss Patricia asked during their second session, watching Emma arrange a dollhouse with intense concentration. "She's pretty. She has long hair. Do you miss her?" Emma moved dolls from room to room in the dollhouse, creating some narrative that made sense to her, but that Miss Patricia couldn't quite follow. "I don't know. What does that mean, sweetie?" Emma looked up, met Miss Patricia's eyes with a directness that was startling in someone so young. "I don't remember what missing her feels like." 6 years old and already fluent in the language of dissociation, already understanding at some level that missing someone who's never going to show up is wasted energy better directed elsewhere, that attachment is risky, that emotional investment in people who can't or won't be present is a recipe for pain. Emma has attached instead to grandfather's neighbor, Mrs. Chen, a widow in her 60s who bakes cookies and lets Emma help in the garden and never promises anything she can't deliver. Mrs. Chen is patient, present, reliable. She's there when Emma gets off the school bus. She knows Emma likes grape juice, but not apple juice. She remembers that Emma's favorite color is purple and her favorite animal is bunny rabbits, and that she doesn't like loud noises. Mrs. Chen provides what Paula never has: consistent, predictable presence. She's not warm exactly. She's from a generation and culture that didn't do emotional demonstrations the way contemporary American parenting does. But she's there, always there. And for Emma, that consistency matters more than warmth. When people ask Emma about her mother now, she gives a rehearsed answer the grandfather taught her. "My mommy had to go away for a while, but she loves me very much, and I'll see her when she comes back." The words are empty shells. She says them because that's what adults want to hear, because saying them makes conversations end faster than saying, "I don't really think about my mum," or "I don't know who my mum is." But they don't correspond to any internal reality. Paula McIntosh exists for Emma, The way Santa Claus exists, a concept, a story, a thing adults talk about, but that has no tangible presence in actual daily life. Nothing you can touch or interact with or rely on. This perhaps is the cruelest consequence of Paula's addiction. Emma won't remember. She's too young. By the time Paula is released, if she's released, if she ever manages to get clean for real, if she doesn't violate parole again, or become severely ill, or simply disappear into the revolving door of addiction and incarceration, Emma will be a teenager. The mother-daughter bond that should have formed in these crucial years, the attachment that should be the foundation of Emma's ability to form healthy relationships for the rest of her life, will simply not exist. There'll be strangers who share genetics, but no actual relationship, no history except one that's defined by absence rather than presence. And Emma, already developing the capacity for emotional self-protection that her siblings developed years earlier, will probably prefer it that way. Will probably find it easier to have a mother who's more concept than person, more memory than presence. Because the alternative, trying to form a relationship with someone you don't remember, someone who wasn't there when it mattered, someone who chose substances over you repeatedly, requires vulnerability that Emma learned to avoid before she learned to read. Paula's perspective. Paula knows all of this, not the specific details. She doesn't know about Michael's robotics club or his decision to delete her from his life like a computer file. She doesn't know about Aisha's panic attacks or the 47 letters organized chronologically in a red shoebox. She doesn't know about Marcus's video games or his strategy of becoming unremarkable. She doesn't know that Emma thinks she lives in a picture frame, but she knows the broader truth. She's losing them, has already lost them in ways that can't be recovered, even if she gets clean, even if she gets out, even if she becomes the mother they deserve instead of the mother she's been. She answered the intake questions with weary honesty that surprised even her. No point lying. Not after 11 years of addiction and 3 incarcerations. Not after everyone who matters already knows the truth. Possession of controlled substances, violation of probation, failure to appear at required check-ins. The charges stacked up like a grocery list of failures, each one representing a moment when she chose substances over responsibility, when the craving was stronger than consequences, when the need for the next high overwhelmed everything, including her love for her children. She was an addict, straight up. No euphemisms, no softening language. It was a label she'd carried for more than a decade, worn like a scar that everyone could see but nobody knew how to heal, that marked her as unreliable, as dangerous, as someone who couldn't be trusted no matter how many promises she made about getting clean this time, about things being different. The substance abuse had started as recreation, a party substance, something fun on weekends when she needed to escape her life for a few hours. But substance abuse doesn't stay recreational, can't stay recreational. The chemical itself prevents that. It metastasizes, becomes the thing you wake up thinking about, the thing you do anything to obtain, the thing that matters more than your children, more than your freedom, more than your life, more than anything except getting more. Paula had been to rehabilitation 7 times, inpatient twice, 30 days each time, enough to detox physically, but nowhere near enough to address the underlying issues that made substances necessary in the first place. Outpatient 5 times. Group therapy sessions twice a week where everyone sat in circles and talked about their struggles and pretended they weren't all just counting days until they could use again. The longest she'd stayed clean was 3 months. That was 2 years ago. 91 days of white-knuckle sobriety, where every single day was a battle, where she attended NA meetings daily, had a sponsor she called sometimes multiple times per day, had a plan and resources and support, and all the things they tell you need for successful recovery. On day 92, she used. Just once, she told herself. Just to take the edge off, because the cravings were so intense, they felt like extreme distress, because the meetings weren't helping anymore, because her sponsor was busy with her own life and couldn't take yet another call from Paula saying she was struggling, because she just needed something, just needed relief, just needed to feel okay for a few hours. 1 use became 2. 2 became daily. Within a week, she'd stopped going to meetings, stopped calling her sponsor, stopped pretending she was going to stay clean. Within 2 weeks, she'd violated probation by missing appointments with her probation officer. Within a month, there was a warrant for her arrest. The probation violation was almost a relief when it finally caught up with her. At least in prison, she couldn't use it. At least in prison, her sobriety was enforced by circumstance, rather than depending on her failing willpower, her exhausted self-control, her inability to resist a substance that had rewired her brain to prioritize it above everything, including the children she loved in whatever way an addict can love, which isn't enough, is never enough, will never be enough, until the addiction itself is addressed at its root. Dr. Raymond Chen, addiction neurologist at Johns Hopkins, who studied substance abuse's effects on the brain for 20 years, explains what 11 years of use does to someone like Paula in terms that make clear why willpower alone is insufficient. Imagine your brain's reward system as a symphony orchestra. Each instrument plays its part. Dopamine neurons, serotonin systems, norepinephrine circuits, all working together to create the experience of pleasure, motivation, reward. These systems evolved to respond to natural rewards like food, intimacy, and social bonding. When you eat something delicious, your brain releases dopamine that creates pleasure and motivates you to seek that food again. When you bond with someone, oxytocin and other neurochemicals create feelings of connection. Substance abuse is like turning every instrument in that orchestra to maximum volume simultaneously and holding it there for hours. The dopamine surge from substance abuse is roughly 10 times what you'd experience from natural rewards. 10 times what your brain was designed to handle. Your brain responds to this flood by down-regulating dopamine receptors. It's a protective mechanism trying to restore homeostasis. But the consequence is devastating. Once those receptors are down-regulated, normal life becomes impossibly quiet. Food doesn't taste like anything. Sunshine doesn't feel good. Seeing your children doesn't produce the warm feelings it should. You're functionally incapable of experiencing joy from natural rewards. The only thing that can break through the numbness is more substance, because only substance abuse is powerful enough to activate the diminished receptor system you now have. Paula McIntosh has been using it since 17. She's 28 now. Her brain has never developed adult dopamine regulation while sober. The systems that should make her feel rewarded by being a good mother, by seeing her children succeed, by normal human connection. Those systems are broken, not metaphorically, actually broken at the neurological level. The 3 months she stayed clean, that required more willpower than most people will ever need for anything. Every single day of those 3 months, her brain was screaming at her that something was desperately wrong, that she needed substance abuse to feel normal, that sobriety was the problem rather than the solution. And she held out for 91 days through sheer force of will before her neurology overwhelmed her psychology. And then the probation system punished her for missing transportation to appointments. She had no car, no money for buses. She lived 12 miles from the probation office and had to report twice a week. She missed 2 appointments because she literally couldn't get there, and they violated her probation for that. We're treating addiction like a moral choice when we should be treating it like the brain injury it actually is. Paula sits in her intake bunk that first night, listening to other women in the dormitory, some sleeping, some crying quietly, some talking in whispers about their cases and their families and how long they'll be here this time. She thinks about 4 faces scattered across 2 states, being cared for by people who aren't her, growing up without her, learning to live as though she doesn't exist because for practical purposes, she doesn't, hasn't, won't for years. She thinks about how Michael has stopped writing entirely, how Aisha's letters are getting shorter, more guarded, less full of the childish enthusiasm that used to make Paula simultaneously happy and heartbroken. How Marcus barely responds during their weekly phone calls, gives one-word answers that make clear he's just going through the motions, fulfilling an obligation rather than expressing any genuine desire to connect. How Emma called her the phone lady during their last conversation, didn't seem to understand who Paula was or why this stranger was telling her, "I love you," through scratchy prison phone connections. She's convinced herself this time will be different. Has convinced herself of exactly this 7 times before, in 7 different contexts, with 7 different levels of resources and support. And every time, she believes it. I really believed it. The belief wasn't fake or strategic. She genuinely thought she'd found the key, the missing piece, the thing that would make sobriety sustainable. But addiction is patient. Addiction waits. And eventually, sometimes quickly, sometimes after months, addiction finds the crack, the weakness, the moment when defenses are down, and floods back in with a force that makes all the promises and plans and good intentions evaporate like morning fog. Hope, like addiction, is a disease that refuses treatment. And Paula, lying in a prison bunk, surrounded by women with their own versions of the same story, clings to it because surrendering hope means surrendering everything, means accepting that she's lost her children permanently, that the addiction has won completely, that she'll meet her end either in prison or on the streets, having destroyed everyone who ever loved her without managing to save herself. 20 years, the long count of Martha Search. Martha Search had been counting days for so long, she no longer remembered the feeling of years as distinct units, as packages of time with beginnings, and endings and meanings attached. 20 years, 7,300 days, 175,200 hours, approximately 10,512,000 minutes. Though she'd stopped counting minutes years ago when the numbers became so large they lost comprehension, became abstract rather than felt. Around year 12, the numbers lost meaning entirely. 12 years became 13, became 14, became a block of time so large it exceeded her capacity to imagine, to hold in her mind as a single thing. So she'd stopped counting forward and started counting backward instead. Not, I've been here 12 years, but I have 8 years left, then 7, then 6, then 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And now, 19 days remaining until release, 456 hours, 27,360 minutes. She'd started counting again because proximity to the end made time feel real in ways it hadn't felt during the middle years, when release was still abstract, still theoretical, still so far in the future, it might as well have been never. Her job was delivering mail throughout the prison, precious cargo representing the only connection many women had to the outside world, to families and friends and lawyers and anyone who remembered they existed beyond these walls. Martha understood the importance in ways only someone who spent decades in prison can understand, who's experienced firsthand how vital those thin envelopes are, how a single letter can sustain you for weeks, how mail call creates anticipation and dread in equal measure, how you can simultaneously hope desperately for mail and fear that it won't come, that the outside world has finally forgotten you completely. She'd watched women receive letters that made them sob with joy. Good news about parole hearings, photos of grandchildren they'd never met, messages from family members who'd been silent for years. She'd watched women receive letters that made them sob with grief, divorce papers, news of loss of life they couldn't attend funerals for, children writing to say they wanted no further contact. And she'd watched the worst thing of all, women who never received any mail at all, who stood hopefully at mail call day after day and never heard their names called, who eventually stopped coming to mail call because the disappointment was worse than just accepting no one was writing. Her own mail had diminished over the years to almost nothing, had followed a predictable trajectory from regular to occasional to rare to absent. Her daughters used to write weekly, then monthly, then only on birthdays and holidays, then only on holidays, then only on Christmas, then not at all. Now she got Christmas cards, generic ones with printed messages but no personal notes, and nothing else. The last real letter she'd received from either daughter was 3 years ago. Her daughters had been 13 and 16 when Martha was incarcerated in 1995, still young enough to need a mother, old enough to understand what had happened and why. The crime was homicide, first-degree homicide. The victim was their father, Martha's husband of 18 years, a man who'd been systematically abusing her for most of those 18 years. He'd started with verbal abuse early in the marriage, escalated to physical violence by year 3. Slaps and punches became worse. He broke her ribs twice, her nose once, her wrist, sent her to the hospital with concussions. The girls saw it all, lived with it, learned that this was normal, that fathers hurt mothers, that violence was just part of family life. Martha had tried to leave twice. Both times, he found her, brought her back, made the violence worse to punish her for trying. She'd called the police multiple times. They'd written reports, suggested marriage counseling, told her husband to calm down, and left without arresting anyone. This was 1994, before mandatory arrest policies for domestic violence, before police training on how abuse escalates. They treated it as a private matter, a marital dispute, something couples should work out themselves. Until the night he came at her with a kitchen knife, intoxicated and enraged about something she couldn't even remember later, something trivial that triggered violence far beyond proportion. Martha grabbed a fireplace poker. It was right there, within reach, and struck him. Once, twice. She didn't remember how many times. Just when she stopped, when she came back to herself, he was deceased on the floor and her daughters were watching from the hallway. Self-defense, her court-appointed lawyer argued. Years of documented abuse, battered woman syndrome, a clear pattern of escalating violence. The prosecution didn't dispute the abuse. The medical records were undeniable, but they painted a different picture. Premeditation. She'd had time to leave, time to call police again, time to make different choices. She'd chosen violence instead. The jury deliberated for 6 hours, found her guilty. 25 years to life. She was 35 years old at sentencing. Her daughters were 13 and 16. The girls were devastated. Jennifer, the oldest, became her mother overnight, taking care of her younger sister Sarah, trying to hold together a household that had exploded, trying to keep living when everything had fallen apart. They moved in with Martha's parents. Martha's mother wrote letters weekly for the first 5 years, providing updates about the girls, about how they were coping, about school and activities, and the ordinary details of life that Martha could no longer participate in, then monthly, then occasionally. Then, after Martha's father passed away suddenly in 2003, the letters became Christmas cards with brief typed messages and nothing more. Martha's mother passed away the following year. Heart attack. Sudden. She was 68. Nobody informed the prison in time for Martha to attend the funeral. She found out 3 days after it happened from a brief letter from Jennifer saying simply, "Grandma passed away." The funeral was Tuesday. You couldn't have come anyway because of security. The girls became women without Martha. They navigated first loves, heartbreaks, high school graduations, college decisions, first jobs, first apartments, marriages maybe. Martha didn't know. Children of their own, possibly. Martha had no idea. All the milestones of growing up that happened between ages 13 and 33, all occurring beyond Martha's reach, beyond her ability to guide or protect or even witness. The phone call came 3 weeks before Martha's scheduled release date. She'd requested the call, filled out the proper paperwork, and waited for approval. She needed to talk to her daughters before she got out, needed to make some plan for where she'd go, what she'd do. The halfway house would provide temporary shelter, but after 90 days, she'd need to figure something else out. The prison phone connected after the automated introduction, explaining that this call was from an inmate at a correctional facility and would be monitored and recorded. 4 rings. Martha's heart pounded so hard she could hear it in her ears. She hadn't spoken to Jennifer in 3 years, to Sarah in even longer. What if they didn't answer? What if they changed numbers? What if... Hello? Jennifer's voice, deeper than Martha remembered. Or maybe Martha had just forgotten what adult women sound like versus teenage girls. Time distorts memory. 20 years is long enough to forget things you thought you'd never forget. Jennifer, it's Mom. Silence. Long enough that Martha thinks the connection has failed, that something went wrong with the phone system. But she can hear breathing, so the line is live. Jennifer just isn't speaking. Martha imagines her daughter's face. Would she even recognize her now? Jennifer is 48 years old. 48. Her baby is nearly 50. Is probably grandmother herself, for all Martha knows. I know it's you, Mom. Your number shows up on caller ID. Technology Martha doesn't fully understand. She's heard about caller ID, but has never actually used it. Has been in prison since before cell phones became ubiquitous, since before technology made it impossible to call someone without them knowing exactly who was calling before they answered. I'm getting out in 3 weeks. I know. The parole board sent us a letter, victim notification. They send those letters now, even though we weren't technically victims of your crime. They asked if we wanted to provide impact statements about your release. We declined. Us. The word registers. Jennifer and Sarah are still in contact, still functioning as a unit, still connected to each other. Just not to Martha. I was hoping one of you might. When I get out, I'll need somewhere to stay. Just temporarily, just until I can get on my feet. The halfway house is only 90 days, and after that, I'll need... We can't. The words land like a physical blow, flat, definitive. No room for negotiation or discussion or pleading. Can't or won't. Does it matter? Martha's throat tightens. She's already starting to cry, and they've barely been talking for 2 minutes. 20 years of waiting for this moment, and it's going even worse than she feared, which is saying something because she had low expectations. It matters to me. Jennifer's breath is shaky now over the phone. She's crying too, Martha realizes. Both of them were crying, separated by however many miles and 20 years of absence, and the uncrossable gap between incarcerated mothers and abandoned daughters. Mom, you've been gone for 20 years. 20 years. Sarah and I have built our lives. We've gone to therapy, years of therapy, thousands of dollars spent trying to process what happened, trying to understand it, trying to heal from it. We've moved on, as much as anyone can move on from having their mother end their father's life and disappear into prison. I didn't have a choice. He was going to end my life. The knife. I know, I remember, I was there. But here's the thing, Mom. We lost both of you that night. We lost Dad, obviously, but we also lost you, and we've had to grieve both of you. Except Dad was actually gone. You were just gone, alive somewhere but completely unavailable. Do you know how hard that is? To grieve someone who's still alive. It's not like you passed. Loss of life is clean, has finality. This was having to choose to let you go while you were still technically alive. And now you want us to ungrieve you, to open up space in our lives that we deliberately closed because keeping it open was destroying us. I served my time, 20 years. Don't I get a second chance? Don't I deserve to have my family back? You got 25 years, which became 20 with good behavior. We got a lifetime. We're living life sentences for something we didn't do. Your second chance can't come at the expense of our healing. So what am I supposed to do? Jennifer's voice cracks completely. The letter said you'd have a halfway house placement. There are programs for released inmates, re-entry services, housing assistance, job placement support. You'll have a parole officer who's supposed to help with all that. There's a whole system designed to help people transition. We can't be that system for you, Mum. We just can't. We don't have the capacity. We don't have the emotional resources. We barely survived the last 20 years. We can't go through it again. Will you at least see me? Just once? Let me explain. Explain what? We know what happened. We lived through what happened. We remember Dad being violent. We remember being scared all the time. We remember the night you committed the fatal act. We remember the trial. We remember all of it. The therapist helped us understand why you did what you did, helped us process that it wasn't about us, that you were trying to protect yourself, maybe even trying to protect us. We understand. But understanding doesn't mean we have to reopen wounds that have barely healed. They have healed. Silence. Then very quietly. No, not completely. They probably never will. But they're better than they were. They're manageable. And seeing you will make them worse. Will rip off scabs that have taken years to form. We need more time. I've given you 20 years. And we needed every minute of it. We might need 20 more. I don't know. All I know is that right now, today, we can't be what you need. And asking us to try will hurt all of us. Will hurt you when we inevitably fail to be the daughters you remember because we're not those people anymore. Will hurt us because we'll feel guilty for not being able to give you what you want, even though we have every right to protect ourselves. The automated voice interrupts. You have 5 minutes remaining. Martha wants to say so many things. Wants to apologize again, though she's apologized in every letter she's written over 20 years. Wants to explain that prison has changed her, made her better, taught her things about herself and about violence and about how to handle conflict without letting it escalate. Wants to beg because maybe begging would work where rational arguments have failed. But Jennifer is right. Begging will only make this worse. Will put pressure on daughters who have already been through enough. Will make her release her needs rather than their boundaries. Okay, Martha says, voice barely above a whisper. I understand. I don't like it, but I understand. I love you, both of you. I always have. I always will. We know, Mom. We love you too. That's why we can't do this. Because we love you, and because seeing you hurts, because we had to protect ourselves. We have to choose our own well-being over your needs. That's what the therapist taught us. That it's okay to set boundaries even with people we love, especially with people we love. Okay. Neither of them hangs up for several seconds. The silence extends, filled with everything they're not saying, everything that can't be said in 5 minutes over a monitored prison phone line. All the missed years, all the moments that can't be recovered, all the ways they're strangers now, connected by biology and history, but separated by decades of mutual absence, by choices made under duress, by a criminal justice system that punishes families as much as it punishes perpetrators. Take care of yourself, Mom. You too, baby. Both of you. We will. The line goes silent. Martha stands in the phone area, holding the receiver long after the dial tone starts. long after it becomes obvious to everyone around her that the call has ended and she needs to move on, to make space for the next inmate waiting to use the phone, to return to her cell and process whatever just happened in privacy instead of in this public space. 20 years of prison teaches you to absorb blows that would destroy most people. You learn not to react visibly, not to let others see your pain, because pain is vulnerability, and vulnerability can be exploited. You learn to take devastating news and file it away somewhere internal where it can't be used against you, where it won't interfere with your ability to function, where it won't give predators openings to attack. But some blows never stop hurting, no matter how practiced you become at absorbing them. Martha hangs up the phone mechanically, returning to her cell on autopilot, her body moving while her mind remains stuck in that conversation, replaying it, looking for moments where she could have said something different, behaved better, and convinced her daughters to give her a chance. She lies on her bunk staring at the ceiling that she stared at for 7,300 nights. The same water stain in the same corner, the same crack running from the light fixture toward the wall. She knows every inch of this ceiling, has spent more time looking at it than most people spend looking at their spouses. In 3 weeks, 19 days now, she'll walk out of these gates into a world that has no place for her, no family waiting, no home to return to. No one remembers who she was before prison or wants to know who she's become during it. Just a bed in a halfway house for 90 days and $73 in her prison account, and the knowledge that freedom, when it finally comes after 2 decades of waiting, might feel less like liberation and more like a different kind of imprisonment. One without walls or guards, but also without support or connection or any of the things that make freedom meaningful. Now both daughters were women in their 30s, Jennifer 48, Sarah 45. Martha knew almost nothing about beyond the sparse details included in Christmas cards that might as well have been from letters for all the personal information they contained. Jennifer had mentioned a husband in one letter years ago. Sarah had sent a brief note about finishing graduate school, but the details were sparse, deliberately vague, clearly intended to fulfill some minimum obligation without actually inviting connection. Whether they had children, Martha's potential grandchildren, remained unknown. Whether they were happy or struggling, thriving or barely surviving, she couldn't say. She'd missed everything, all of it. The entirety of their adult lives had unfolded without her and would continue unfolding without her even after release, because they'd made clear that her absence from their lives was permanent, not circumstantial, a choice rather than a temporary condition imposed by incarceration. 6 months have passed since the releases and denials we documented. Martha Search, 62 years old, works night shift as a janitor downtown, $12.50 per hour. She lives in a studio apartment with 3 other formerly incarcerated women. She eats cheaply, take buses, walk when buses don't run. Her daughters sent Christmas cards this year, unsigned, but they came. Martha keeps them on the small table beside her bed. She's saving money, $20 from each paycheck, $300 so far. She doesn't know what to do. Maybe her own place. Maybe just knowing she has something of her own. She's 62, makes minimum wage, but she's out. She's free. She hasn't returned. She counts this as success. Addie Hartz was rearrested 43 days after release, currently serving an additional 2 years for assault during a domestic dispute with her ex-boyfriend. Her daughters stopped asking when she'll come home, stopped believing promises. Melissa, now 17, wrote in a school essay, "My mother lives in 2 places, prison and my memory, and I only visit one of them. Melissa is applying to colleges, straight A student, determined to break the pattern, to be the first woman in her family in 4 generations never to wear orange. Addie sits in her cell, same unit, Unit 13, and knows now what she only suspected before. She is her mother. She is her grandmother. She is the pattern she swore to break." Paula McIntosh remains at Rockville, denied parole again. Her father relinquished custody of Marcus and Emma. Both children are now in foster care. Separate homes. Michael, her oldest son, aged out of the system, has not contacted his mother or siblings, last known to be surviving on the streets of Indianapolis. Aisha still writes occasionally, brief letters saying almost nothing. Paula tells other inmates she'll stay clean when released. She said this before. No one, including Paula, believes it anymore. Sarah Pender remains in administrative segregation, 2,157 days now, roughly 6 years. Every 6 months they review. Every 6 months they determine she should stay. Desiree Hancock was released from segregation, returned to the general population. She and Sarah can no longer communicate. The friendship that sustained both women has been severed. Sarah is alone now. For 6 years, she had Desiree's voice answering from across the corridor. Now only silence. When asked by the prison psychologist how she's coping, Sarah gives the expected answer. "I'm managing, following rules, counting down." But in reality, Sarah has stopped counting. She's 41, will be 61 before her sentence allows parole eligibility. And even then, parole is unlikely. She will pass away in prison. This is the unspoken reality she's finally accepted. At Rockville Correctional Facility, 200 women arrived this month. Some for the first time, eyes wide. Some for the 5th time, walking through intake with weary familiarity. The intake guard processes them efficiently. The patterns continue. The cycle turns. And the questions we began with remain unanswered. Questions about justice and mercy, about accountability and compassion, about what we owe to each other as human beings sharing this imperfect world. The women in Indiana's prisons are not mythological figures, but their stories touch the same ancient themes. They navigate the space between choice and fate. They struggle against patterns larger than individual will. Behind every prison number is a person. Behind every crime is a context. Behind every sentence is a human being experiencing time in ways most will never comprehend. These women are still inside. Their children are still outside, growing up without them. And the cycle, the terrible, predictable, preventable cycle, continues until we decide collectively that it shouldn't. Thank you for walking this path with us, for bearing witness to these stories, for recognizing humanity in places where humanity is often denied. May your freedom never feel as distant as theirs. May your choices never become their consequences. And may your compassion extend even to those who society has decided deserve none. Good night. Rest well. And remember, these walls contain daughters, mothers, sisters, and human beings. Not monsters, but people who made mistakes, who were shaped by circumstances, who deserve to be seen for their full complexity, rather than their worst moments. The gates remain, the women remain, and the question remains: what kind of society do we want to be?